All right, friends, so let's talk about how we're going to draw this shiny metallic bow. Now, this might look a little bit tricky, but really, once you figure out the basic shapes, it is not so hard. So, on the back of your paper, we're first going to start off by writing our names. And then on the back of your paper, I want you to practice these sort of cone shapes that we've got going on here. So, looking at my bow, I notice that there are cones. And there's usually an oval at the bottom, the lines slant at the top, and then a curved line along the top like that. Or if the small line is facing towards you, maybe it's a small oval, lines facing this way, and a curved line on the bottom. So there's always some kind of an oval in there as well. So depending on what yours looks like, you might have a wider opening or a smaller opening. We're just going to really be looking at what we're working with, but I'm just practicing this kind of cone shape here on the back of my paper just to get comfortable with making it. If I squint at my bow, I can see that the darkest values are on the in-between areas and that there are sort of stripes of values happening along the outside areas. So I'm going to practice that really quickly on the back here. So I'm going to start. Notice that my pencil's on an angle. I'm not going straight up and down like this. I'm not writing, I'm drawing. So my pencil's on an angle, and I'm starting by just filling in those values. And then along the edges, if I squint at it, I can see the darkest values are along the edges. Then there's a couple areas that are lighter, a couple areas that are white. And then again, it's dark along the areas, or along the edges. So I've got dark in the middle, dark along the edges. I'll use my little blender to smooth things out. If I accidentally made something too dark, I can lighten it up, and that feels pretty good. I'm going to try that again on this one. So it's dark on the inside, dark along the edges, then lighter, stripes of white, then dark along the edge again. Again, I'm just changing my pencil pressure, not doing any hard lines, just trying to build up those soft values. I'll use my blender, blend it out. And when I squint at it, it looks nice and metallic. I feel like I'm ready to move on to my full drawing. So now that I feel comfortable with my practice, I feel okay to flip my paper over. And now we are going to do our real drawing here on the front. I want to scale this up a little bit so that way it's nice and big, but we're going to start with this round kind of rainbow shape here in the center, and we'll work our way out. So the first thing I'll do with really light pencil lines is I'm just going to sketch out the general outline of the shapes I'm looking at. So I can see that this one in the middle is a curved line rather than it being that triangle shape, because this one's meant to fill things in. And now I'm going to add my curved lines around it. So I'm going to start by looking at this one. So I can see that it has an open curve, points this way, closes at the top. And I'm just going to keep on making my way around, looking at each one of these curves, just taking it one at a time, not stressing out over it. I can see that these ones overlap here. I'm just going to do one over top of the other. So I'm just working my way all around, adding these little cone shapes in whatever direction they're facing. Not worrying about any values yet, just trying to show you where the triangles are. Don't stress if it looks kind of funny right now. It might look a little funny. It's all right. All right, now I've got all my cones in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to squint at my values, And I'm going to take it one shape at a time, and I'm going to start adding in those darker values. So I'm going to start right here with this curve in the center, and I can see that there is dark, medium, highlight, medium, highlight, medium, and then dark underneath of it. So I'm going to start with this dark area underneath. Working on an angle, filling in this space. Do a little bit of cross hatching to fill all this in. And now I'm going to work across that curve here in the middle. So I've got dark, light, going to change my pencil pressure, leave that area white, leave that area white, one more little white spot, and then down here towards the bottom is where things start to get a little bit darker. So I'm going in and I'm adding more lead or graphite in those areas that are the darkest. And now I'll take my blending stump and just smooth some of these things out, get rid of some of those little pencil lines. If I accidentally made one area too dark, I could take my little eraser in here and erase it away. And that feels good for my first start. Now, at first you might be looking at this thinking, does this look right? Just keep going. So I'm going to keep going and make my way around. So I'm going to look at this one next, and I see that it's darkest on the inside, dark along the edges, lighter on the outside. So I'll do the exact same thing. Sometimes I like to turn my paper, it makes it a little bit easier. And now I've got dark along the edge, little lighter, and darkest along the edge right here. Remember, you want to push those values. Always go back in and make things darker where they're darker. Blend it up. Erase away if anywhere got too light. And now I'm just going to keep on going. Do my darkest values and build from there. All right, friends, so now that I've got most of my values in here, I want to kind of go through and see if there's anywhere where I can push my values, anywhere where I can make things darker, anywhere where I can make things lighter. I'm also kind of realizing I think I maybe missed one right here, so I can go ahead and add that guy in really quickly. Thought there was one missing over here. Look, your drawing can always continue growing, you know what I mean? You're not done just because you realized you forgot something. So I'm going to add this one in over here that I didn't realize I forgot. There we go. Now that looks a little bit more full. So what I want to do now is kind of squint at my drawing, squint at my real bow, and ask myself, okay, where do I need to go in and lighten things up? Maybe there's some actual highlights that are inside of these little holes in here. Maybe some of these highlights got a little blended in. I want to come in and make sure they're nice and light. I'm just using the corner of my eraser to get a nice thin line. Maybe I could go in and make my darkest values a little bit darker by building up my pencil. Clean up some lines. I feel pretty good about that. So now my last step is I want to add the shadow underneath of my ribbon, and this is going to be a soft shadow, right? It doesn't have a hard line to it. So all I'm going to do is take my pencil, and I'm just going to add a soft shadow underneath of my bow. Just on the bottom parts. I don't need to put one everywhere. When I'm ready, I'll take my blending stump. I'll just blend that out so it's a nice soft shadow. Go back in, make the part right underneath of it a little bit darker. Wherever it's touching the table, make it darker. Blend it one more time. Whoops. All right, now looking at these two, I feel pretty good about that. So what I'm going to do now before we finish this up is I'm just going to sign my initials right underneath of it. And I'll put the year. Ta-da! And there's my bow.